to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change.
Well, hello everyone. How are... Oh, the chat came up. Look, Bunchy has calmed down. Bunchy was freaking out the other night. Now Bunchy is settled down. All is well with the world. I am super sorry I was late. I kept forgetting to update my credit card information. So when I went to start streaming, it was like, yeah, chickie, you gotta pay for this software. Ain't no such thing as a free lunch. So I had to run upstairs, get my credit card, pay for eCam for another year, and then come back down here. I hope you all are doing well. I think this is a show that is long overdue. It's gonna range a little bit broader than what I think everyone wants to hear. We will, of course, talk about the smears against the LP, but I want to talk about some things that are a little bit more fundamental. But before we get to that, I have to do my grifting. Unlike the chair of the party, I don't have a baby to grift for baby gifts. Just joking, Angela. I love you. Patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. I would sincerely appreciate it if you would become a patron of this show. But also, it's been a hot minute since I've gotten super chats. I know, times are tough, but wanted to remind you that all super chats indeed do matter. Better not put that in a shirt or I'll get in trouble, I suppose, with all that controversy that's going on with Candace Owens and Kanye West, I guess. But here we are. We are talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center. I've been doing quite a... Listen, I've known for a long time they're a trash organization. What's funny is before I was a libertarian, I even knew that they were a Dave Davis, what are you doing? Is it not connected? I see your comments. But anyway, I knew they were a trash organization, but I didn't know as much about the history of this particular organization. But kind of like the ACLU, things started out well. Things started out noble. We could even say maybe even like feminism. What happens is organizations and movements find a cause, and then they pretty much accomplish their goal, and then they exist just to exist. It would be like if we were living in anarchy and we still had the Libertarian Party. That wouldn't make much sense. There's no state. There's nothing to fight. We would manufacture things to fight. And that's what happens with a lot of organizations. Just like the ACLU no longer fights for civil liberties any longer. The Southern Poverty Law Center no longer fights for what it allegedly was founded to do. I mean, it has a storied past of valiantly fighting against the KKK. And then it started seeing, boogeymen under every rock. And its founder was a master fundraiser. The organization remains basically a bastion of just fundraising and pretty crappy journalism. If I could sum up what they're against today, it's freedom. They are against freedom and everything it entails. Certainly, there are groups and people that are featured on their website that I wouldn't care for, that I would even characterize as reprehensible. But they cast an extremely, extremely wide net. And basically, anything that we would consider as libertarians just basic freedoms is characterized as hate. It is amazing today, and they're certainly not the only ones guilty of it, that we are no longer in a battle of ideas. We are in just a battle of rhetoric. And we will look at specific examples of this because what's so funny, I've said multiple times, there's been so many things that I have lost my idealism on in these past couple years because of things that have happened to me and just seeing bad actors. I don't even know how to word this, but, idealism can be the thing that strangles you. You can never lose your principles. But as even, I do my Christian quotes, the Bible says you have to be gentle as doves, but wise as serpents. And I am really learning the wise as serpent angle. Because when I was past couple days complaining on Twitter, as I do, about the crap journalism coming out of the Daily Beast, which I still maintain, and we'll probably do a separate show on that article, is actionable libel. Doesn't mean I think anyone should take action on it. And I know plenty of lawyers that, thank you, Dave Davis. I truly appreciate you've broken my losing streak. I know plenty of lawyers that have disagreed with me. But let me tell you something. I've been working as a paralegal for 25 years. I'm not a lawyer, quite obviously, but I've worked with enough lawyers to know that just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. And it also doesn't mean other people who are also lawyers will not agree with you. But I can tell you one thing that I don't think lawyers are supposed to do. Now, I haven't looked at the Code of Professional Responsibility for a while, but the absolute utter abuse that has been heaped on me by some alleged attorneys, I'm taking their self-identification and their Twitter profiles for truth. I can tell you that I don't think it's part of the Code of Professional Responsibility to abuse other legal professionals on Twitter. I'm a NAILA certified paralegal. Now, it's probably not something you could write to the bar about, and not that I would, because I think the bar is a cartel, just like the AMA is. But it's just so funny that these very self-righteous lawyers are at least breaking the spirit of professional responsibility. It's just like I, as a parliamentarian, if I disagree with another parliamentarian, and I know I'm not a lawyer, but I am a legal professional, it's against our code of professional responsibility to go out and purposely disparage the abilities of another parliamentarian. You can disagree with their opinion, you can explain why their opinion is wrong, but the abuse that has been heaped on me simply because I disagree on what constitutes actionable libel has been just absolutely ridiculous. Now, let me make things clear. I don't believe libel is a libertarian concept. You don't own your reputation, and unless somebody causes you physical harm, I don't think there's a legal cause of action. This whole incident, though, has made me come up with a theory of how things like defamation, slander, and libel would be handled in Libertopia. So I've been kind of grateful for this, because you can't argue. The word harm is so ambiguous. You know, in the non-aggression principle form of harm, you know, you're talking about physical harm. You're not talking about like harm to reputation, but that's another meaning of the word. And the recourse for harm to your reputation is harm to the liar's reputation. And things like libel have seriously challenged my belief that we could get along without a state. But it has caused me to come up with an idea of how libel could be handled in a libertarian manner. I am sure I am not the first person to come up with this, but it's just something I came up with without reading it someplace else. I'm going to do a whole show on that, and I'd be very interested in what you have to and what you have to say. But we're going to stick with the Southern Poverty Law Center article. I'm not claiming that theirs is necessarily actionable libel. I think the Daily Beast went farther, but we'll have to look at that closer. But I'm going to make it clear, you know, unlike the moment I got super furious at being lied about on Twitter, no, I am not saying anybody should be sued. That was a dumb thing for me to say on Twitter, and I retracted that. I didn't retract, and I will not retract, that I do think it's actionable libel. What I did retract is that anybody should act on it, because libel is not a libertarian cause of action. That's my principles. Just because someone makes me super, super angry, I have a higher principle, which is my dedication to free speech, and I wouldn't harm that. You know, I would rather suffer the slings and arrows of lies than harm the cause of free speech. So, in case anyone's still going around saying, oh my God, she's threatening to sue people. No, I got really, really angry and said something stupid, as happens. But there needs to be a way, not necessarily in a court of law, to hold people account for libel. Because even though it might not be a violation of the non-aggression principle, if it's not true, you know, just because you don't like what somebody says doesn't mean it's not true. If it's not true, there needs to be a way to right the scales of justice, even if it's not technically a legal cause of action. It certainly is a moral one. All right, we need some fireball for this. Yeah, Samuel, I agree with Walter Block on that. I don't think libel is actionable, but I also struggle greatly with people that are the targets of libel just having to lay down and take it. You know? We're going to do a whole show on that, so I'm not going to get into that now. I'm just going to let you know my wheels have been thinking, and it really has challenged me. I'm always very honest when real-life situations challenge my libertarian principles. I'll drink to that. Okay, here we go. But let's talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center. What did I call them? The Sour Puss Loser Caucus or something? I don't know. I'm sure we can come up with all kinds of very amusing acronyms. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to take comments off the screen because I do want to put up articles so that you guys could see what I'm reading from. And you don't have to take my word for it. But first of all, I want to show you a book that I ordered. We're going to be talking about this organization done pissed me off. Okay, and I have weaponized autism. And once you piss me off, I'll be talking about you for a while. You know, they think they could gossip about whoever they want. Okay, two can play that game. Now, I obviously don't have nearly the reach and certainly not nearly the fundraising ability. But that doesn't mean I can't talk about this. Oh, before we switch to the, well, let me switch to the book. I recommend it, not having read it yet, but I've read reviews of it that give me confidence that this will be a valuable resource. I have ordered it, and we'll probably go through this on my show. So let me pull this up on the screen. It's right here by Tyler O'Neill, Making Hate Pay, The Corruption of the Southern Poverty Law Center. There's actually quite a few very good articles on this topic, and this book came highly recommended. I ordered it today. It should be in by the end of the month. But let's go back to this screen here. There's something, and I taxed this, but I'll give due credit, even though there is no such thing as intellectual property. David Hines had said, and this is something that I intuited, but you know how you can intuit things and not really put them into words. But David Hines pointed this out, and this is going to be a paraphrase because I don't have his quote directly in front of me. But what groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center, and it's not just on the left. I'm going to be mostly criticizing things from the left today, but this sort of tactic is used on the right as well. We will perhaps in another show go over that. This just happens to be the topic for today, but I wanted to acknowledge that right off. And I think it's a bigger problem in the left today, a far bigger problem in the left, but it's certainly not exclusive to the left. But what we have here, is a failure to communicate. No, what we have here is a libel laundering organization. So as David Hines put it, is you have basically the people who do not mind getting in the gutter, like the Southern Poverty Law Center, who will write a hit piece on somebody. Because they did good work in the past, they are still riding on the coattails of reputation that they no longer deserve. But they're milking that. They are pulling on those cow teats for everything that it's worth. So you'll have a group like SPLC will write a hit piece. And then a marginally, and keyword on marginally, respectable news outlet will pick it up and quote it, like the Daily Beast. And then another one that's slightly more respectable will pick it up. And then before you know it, now whether or not we consider the New York Times respectable, it generally is considered so, or even like Reason Magazine, or some of these more mainline, not tabloid publications will pick it up and cite back to, we'll pick it up because it's been reported so many times. And then these fact checkers will come along, take it as fact because the New York Times said it. But it didn't originate with the New York Times. If you see what happened is the falsehood has been laundered. It's been laundered through multiple levels till it makes it up to a quote-unquote respectable organization, and then the circle is complete when these alleged independent fact-checkers then cite the quote-unquote respectable organization, thereby giving the dirty story credibility. It is exactly how money is laundered. This is how libel is laundered. And this has been going on for a long, long time. And my hobby is history. I've been a hobbyist historian for a long time. Used to do so with church history, now doing so with party history. But there's a great book called Historical Fallacies. If you are a history buff like me, it's one you probably will want to pick up. I'm not sure if it's in this book. I mentioned the book just because I like pimping this book, but it is a historical fallacy where you'll cite a fact and a quote-unquote fact. And you'll go, well, it's in this source, it's in this source, it's in this source, and it's in this source. But when you trace back where these 10 sources got their information, it all traces back to one singular source. So just because something is repeated 20 times doesn't make it 20 sources. They're all repeating the same singular source. This is a really, really common historical fallacy that is done with people who want to come up with novel historical theories. In order to establish things in historical research, you want independent sources that aren't incestuously quoting each other. You want what's called in like biblical studies, when you're trying to trace manuscript evidence for the New Testament or the Old Testament, you want multiple lines of manuscript transmission. I hope everyone followed me here. I know this went off into a hobby horse that you don't hear me talking about very much. But this is what is happening with things like the Southern Poverty Law Center. They get quoted 20 times, and all of a sudden, it seems like all of these sources are saying the same thing. But it all traces back to the one poisonous seed whose motivation is just to smear people who stand for freedom. And again, I'm not saying every one of their targets is undeserved. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm not going to be defending everyone that the SPLC has gone after. As I said, they got their start going after the KKK, an absolutely despicable organization. So, but just saying. So when you see, oh my God, there's all these articles about the alt-right in the LP, it all traces back to singular sources. It isn't independently checked. It's just incestuous. And part of it is the nature of this digital world where reporters aren't reporters anymore. They don't get to actually research anything. And we're going to see that in this article, one of the articles we're going to look at from the SPLC. This reporter is so incredibly sloppy that it is unreal to me. I can't imagine writing something like this that is so sloppy. And of course, I could just sit here and make ad hominem attacks against this reporter, but I think it's more the nature of the fast-moving, oh, we got to get an article out, oh, we got to get an article out, oh, we got to get one out before so-and-so nature of today. But as a preface to what we're going to talk about today, I want to put up on the screen a Substack that I wrote. And I don't even remember what I think is it Pink Flame? Does somebody have my Substack address? It's so funny. I don't know my own, but this is going to be a predicate to a lot of articles that we're going to be doing. Okay, well, I found one of my articles, and I think I can get back to... Okay, yep, I'm going to put this up on the screen. Thank you, Samuel. So, yeah, I did find it. So let me turn off here. Where's my glasses? God, getting old sucks. I'm looking for... I need to put this on my little... Oh, maybe I can do it here. Show, hide... No, I'm going to need to set up my little stream deck to do this, but I need to turn off this chat widget for a second. And let's pull up my screen. We're going to read this Substack because this is some very necessary background information because I'm just like so tired of the lies. So here we go. This is at KarenAnnHarlos.substack.com. Go read my Substack. I think I don't write often, but I like what I write. Quite obviously, I wouldn't publish it if I didn't like it. But the title of this one is You Can Have Your Own Opinion and Drop Your Knickers for Trashy Smear Merchants, but You Cannot Have Your Own Facts. And there's Baghdad Bob. Okay, I'm going to read this out loud just because it's important. It says, this article is intended to be a reference document to be incorporated into other rebuttals of libelous rees, perpetually sore losers with compromised ethics. The statistics herein were provided by the LNC Treasurer Todd Hagopian on this date, and this date was a couple days ago. So let's go, shall we? We shall use one example. This from the pyrotechnically sloppy article of yesterday from the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, or, I called them the Sourpuss Libel Cabal. I like that. Sourpuss Libel Cabal. That is them. as I like to call them, which stated, and we're jumping ahead to go over this one portion now so we don't have to go over it later because this keeps getting repeated by people. Let me read it first. Okay, here we go. This is a quote from the SPLC. The LP posted an August report, and they actually linked to it, on its financial status that showed declines in active donors and membership dues. The report showed membership revenue at $7,381 for 2021. As of August, the LP raised $417,411 in 2022, which would put it on track to earn about $600,000 this year. Anyone who sees that number should know should automatically know that doesn't pass the sniff test. Even in bad years, our budget is about $1,600,000. So this is off by about $1 million. That's all. General fundraising went from $50,000 462, or roughly $262,615 per quarter, to $689,771, or about $229,925. $23 per quarter in 2022. I know there were a lot of figures there. Let's just put it, because the actual figures I don't think really matters. They're basically saying we're down per quarter and we are on track to have a horrible 2022. Okay, so let's continue. I said, now the numbers are what the numbers are as far as they go. He did accurately report figures he got from that August report. His interpretation is way off, but as far as the raw numbers go, those numbers do appear in those reports. Let's give them that. So I said, well enough. But we all know that context matters. And then I say, no, I take that back. The SPLC does not know that, nor do they know how to get basic terminology correct in its article, which we will point to and laugh at in a later article. I'm actually going to point to and laugh at it in this show, which I'm going to end up linking in this article. And I said, but my God, that reporter is sloppier than the intestinal flu, and just as interesting. Now I want to laugh at something here. All the people who were so upset at me for saying that the Daily Beast was libelous, which it was, actually libel, compared me making a joke that an article was as interesting as the intestinal flu. They made an equivalency of that, saying, how dare I complain that myself and other people were basically called rotten Nazi racists? How dare I be upset about that when I made a joke that an article gave me diarrhea? Do you really think the two are equivalent? My God, these people. And I don't believe they even believe what they're saying. We're going to get into it. They're pulling Alinsky's rules for radicals, which I used to detest, but I think people are making me a believer in Alinsky's rules for radicals, because that's exactly what's going on here. So let's continue. First, something that any thinking person should notice, and I know that would exclude the reporter in question, oh my goodness, I made another joke, is that these figures speak of 2022 as a whole. Was the evil Mises Caucus endorsed LNC in charge of the National Libertarian Party for all of 2022? No, gotcha. Are fundraising and membership trends pretty consistent month by month, no matter who is in charge? No. Gotcha. So here are some pesky little facts from Treasurer Hagopian. This is the takeaway for you guys. In the 12 months preceding Reno, under the old LNC, active donors dropped 12.9%. It's easier to deal with percentages than numbers, I think, and I think they're more meaningful. Since Reno, that trend has reversed, and it is up 1.9%. And you guys know this from past shows. The last LNC basically made this party insolvent. We didn't have a reserve. We were insolvent. We no longer are. But you don't see that come up in these articles. In the 12 months preceding Reno, under the old LNC, the Libertarian Party sold around 85,000 lifetime memberships. This is in an entire year. 85 lifetime memberships. Since Reno, so we're talking about since the end of May, so just basically June forward, the Libertarian Party has sold around 148 lifetime memberships. We're not talking even about a whole year. The numbers are a little fuzzy. Actually, it's not since June. It's since, because he is counting the ones sold immediately after the election of the new LNC. These numbers are a little fuzzy due to lifetime sold at Reno. And let's be even more specific. They weren't sold at Reno. They were sold after the election of the new LNC, which is included in this total. In the 12 months preceding Reno, under the old LNC, the Libertarian Party averaged 223 new members, not renewals, each month. Since Reno, the Libertarian Party has averaged 302 new members, not renewals, each month. Removing the convention month, in the first 4 months of 2022, under the old LNC, the Libertarian Party averaged $128,000 in revenue per month. Removing the convention month, into the 3 months of 2022 after Reno, because we're dealing with an August report. I know it's been longer than that, but the way our financial reporting goes, it's always a little bit behind. The Libertarian Party has averaged $139,000 in revenue per month. So when you look at actual context, we are doing better. You wouldn't know that from these articles. Now, am I satisfied with what we're doing? No. But I'm realistic that in a depressed economy, or recessed, or whatever the hell we're going to call it, it's going to be very difficult. I wish we were up more than 1.9%, but I'll take it. And then I continue. Oopsie, funny this. Go pound sand and eat glitter, you filthy, filthy smear merchants, and all those who give you aid and comfort. And then I put, P.S. Despite with the senile old fool in the White House, oh my God, that must be racist somehow. I meant the White House part. We now need to make it the transparent house. Tells you our economy sucks. While I don't want this to happen, fundraising is going to be tough. People tend to prioritize feeding their kids and getting to work more than voluntary donations to private organizations. I know. Strange. Okay. So I hope those facts helped you guys when you start dealing with some of the people that give aid and comfort to these filthy, filthy smear merchants. And I make no apologies for calling them that. And I make no apologies for saying that people who run to disgusting organizations like the Daily Beast and the Southern Poverty Law Center should never be welcome again in the Libertarian Party. I know people are very upset at me for saying that. We cannot afford backstabbers. There's all kinds of people I disagree with. There's all kinds of people who hold a slightly different variation of libertarian ideology than I do. I never even said before that the libertarian socialists should be thrown out, and I still don't say that unless they go running to filthy, filthy smear merchants. But when people will stoop that low and whore themselves that badly, we would be a fool to take them back. We would be like the woman who is cheating, who's with a married man and thinks he's going to divorce his wife and marry her and then not cheat on her. We cannot be fools. Gentle as doves, wise as serpents. And some people go, oh, you keep narrowing the scope of who. We're talking about a handful of people, a handful of very, very treacherous people. I want to tell you something. I mentioned this on my show, but I didn't discuss it widely. After what happened to me, and what happened to me was grievous. I don't care who disagrees with me. This is a fact. I was removed for being a mouthy whistleblower. And you want to know how many opportunities I had to talk to filthy, filthy smear merchants and ones who weren't filthy, filthy smear merchants, but were just people who didn't have the Libertarian Party's best interest at heart. And I did not give them interviews because my goal was never to harm the party, even if I don't agree with current direction. And I don't want to say never, never's the wrong word. There was a large period of time, I did not agree with the direction of Nick Sarwark. I couldn't stand the majority of the last LNC, but I never would harm the party in this way. I never would have stooped so low. There's got to be consequences for doing disgusting things like this. This does not mean you don't forgive people. I'm a Christian. Of course you forgive. But that doesn't mean trust is re-earned. That is pretty disgusting to go running to the Southern Poverty Law Center. and things like the Daily Beast. What are you going to go to TMZ next? Okay. So that's the background. So we talked about the way libel is laundered today. And again, it does happen on the right as well. And I've got all kinds of shows queued up. I've been promising you guys this is some Ben Shapiro, more Ben Shapiro critiques and Candace Owen critiques. I critique the right quite a bit. But right now we are talking about the left. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is the master laundering factory for libel. Okay, we're going to look at some specific articles. We're not only going to look at the articles about the LP, because I know some people are just going to have a knee-jerk reaction and not hear a word I say. So I'm going to start with an organization and cause that they libeled that all libertarians should agree is gross and disgusting. And that is the 10th Amendment Center and the idea of jury nullification. Do you know that jury nullification and saying that states like this country was founded should be able to nullify laws that they believe are unconstitutional is hate? According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, every single libertarian out here probably believes in jury nullification, and if you don't, you've got a problem. Well, guess what? You're a hater. You are a hater according to the SPLC. Welcome to the club. See if you're so fast now to agree with what they're saying about people that you just happen not to agree with. So I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to see this. Okay. Okay, this was the book, but let me note this down because we're going to be talking about this book at some point. But I've got, let's see, one. There's something else there I want to show you at the end. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles. We're not going to read through them all, but there are 5 articles I'm going to show you. 2 of them deal with the new LNC. The other 3 do not. They're about nullification. But let's see if I could pull up the first one. I might have to switch between screens. Let me take this down. Nope, that's a comment. Don't want that. Here we go. Nullification conference attracts far-right extremists. Have you figured out that everything that isn't the Southern Poverty Law Center is far-right? My God. It's insane. A friend of mine, I should have put this graphic up for this show, did the political compass and basically had the whole thing covered in red except for the extreme authoritarian left, which was Southern Poverty Law Center, and everything else was far right. But let me find this article, and we're going to go through some choice quotes from here. So nullification conference attracts far-right extremists. But something you'll notice is a common theme with the Southern Poverty Law Center. They hate freedom. Anything that has to do with asserting your individuality and your rights, they frickin' hate. Okay, and something I want you to notice right away. This isn't merely something they disagree with. An opinion piece they merely disagree with. Okay. I want you to look right under the title what this is posted under. It's under Hate Watch. They consider nullification actually hateful. That's you folks. That includes even the people who love to smear the Mises Caucus and the new LNC. Nullification is held to, as far as I know, by the likes of Andy Craig. Well, Andy Craig, welcome to Hate Watch. Adam Bates, welcome to Hate Watch. Holly Ward, welcome to Hate Watch. All of you little weasels who ran running to the SPLC, you are haters too. Okay. And let's read this first paragraph that they're proud of. And I'm going to tell you something funny about the Southern Poverty Law Center. I know sometimes they write articles where they think they're saying something that should be shocking. And, oh my God, can you believe such and such group believes this? And I'm reading it going, yeah, and... yeah, oh, you're making them sound pretty damn good to me. Just shows what a disconnect. So this is from 2011. It says so they've been doing this a while. On the Even Nullification Now conference in Jacksonville, Florida, last week, the 10th Amendment Center issued a warning, and here's the warning. The Southern Poverty Law Center was sending someone to report that those of us who want political decentralization, as the Constitution requires, are dangerous. And then the SPLC brags about this and says, you know what? We were. Okay, so we're gonna skim through this. It says, roughly 100 people attended the conference organized by the 10th Amendment Center, a group focused on how to weaken the reach of the federal government through nullification, as if that's a bad thing. That is what this country is allegedly founded on. Of course, they disagree, but I'm trying to appeal to common ethics here of libertarians. Their central idea that each state has the constitutional right to invalidate and disregard virtually any federal law. The 10th Amendment Center does lay restrictions on that, but let's ignore that for a minute. Relies on a spurious interpretation of the 10th Amendment, which reserves to the states and the people any power not explicitly given to the federal government, and flies in the face of more than 2 centuries of jurisprudence. Well, let me tell you something. Jurisprudence doesn't take away your rights and doesn't take away my rights. We're just going to take what they said here as true for the sake of argument. Oh boy. So then they say, there are people whose ideas we don't like that like nullification. That is called the genetic fallacy. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the idea is correct. All right. And then, they go on to smear Tom Woods, of course. All right. So we see what they think about nullification there, that it's a spurious interpretation to think that, oh my God, that you could want to reduce the reach of the federal government. To them, that is a violation almost like of a commandment that came from Moses on high. To them, blaspheming against the federal government or the power of the federal government, at least to enact leftist policies, is akin to violating thou shalt have no other God before me. Okay, let's pull up the next one. Hopefully this is a nullification one. Yes. Now this is really interesting. Far-right jury nullification concept resurfaces in marijuana debate. Now, the article we dealt with before dealt with state nullification. So, 2 different nullification issues here. This one deals with jury nullification. Both of these concepts are things that all libertarians should agree on. I'm trying to appeal to common ground here to show you how terrible these filthy, filthy smear merchants are. Now, but what's interesting in this title, it's funny that this one isn't under Hate Watch notice, but that probably was just an oversight on their part. Oh, no, it is. If you look down at the bottom at the web address, it is under Hate Watch. It just gives the title of the quote-unquote reporter at the top. But if you look at the address at the bottom, it is splcenter.org/hate watch. So, okay, yeah, hateful marijuana jury nullifiers. Now, just look at this title for a second. And you know that meme where it's that cartoon guy going, yeah, maybe I'm wrong here. But the last I heard, the far right weren't really big on pot. Like, when I think of the far right, I don't immediately think of, let's go nullify juries to let pot smokers off. Okay, That should be your first clue here, that this is nonsense. And if you hear my bird screaming upstairs, I'm sorry, they're even offended by the Southern Poverty Law Center. It says, can members of juries really stand in judgment of the laws they are sworn to apply? Thou shalt have no other gods before the state. But it seems to me, I bet you the SPLC would have been fine with it if we were dealing with nullification of Jim Crow laws when they existed, which should have been nullified, just like marijuana laws should be nullified. And it's funny that they're going after this when it's pretty well known. Now, I know not everyone will agree with this, but I certainly believe it, and most libertarians do, that a lot of these drug laws disparately impact the poor. I mean, they have poverty right in their name, and minority communities. It says this concept, known as jury nullification, has been promoted in previous decades by far-right extremists. Everything they don't like is far-right extremists. You know, those damn far-right extremists in their pot. Frickin' hippies, these far-right extremists and their marijuana. Okay. So, and then it goes on to talk about in the past where there was wrongs committed by all white juries against black people. That certainly did happen. It doesn't make jury nullification wrong. It just means certain juries were evil people. Okay, more recently it's popped up in the contest over the debate over marijuana legalization. Okay, so again, we're not going through the whole thing. We just want to just trying to give you some nullification examples here. Oh, I love this part. It says, other jurists have been equally clear about the actual standing of jury nullification. It's a recipe for anarchy. Sign me up. When jurors are allowed to substitute personal whims for the stable and established law. Well, it was once the stable and established law that black people weren't worth as much as white people, or that separate but equal. Excuse me if I don't worship established, stable and established law. And I think, you know, the way it's being revered here is very similar to the follow the science. When we've just found out through that testimony that there never really was any testing on these vaccines. Interesting. Oh boy. Okay, and then it goes on to smear the Fully Informed Jury Association. Says FIJA's origins and orientation are extremist. Okay. Well, I'm extreme like that. I'm extreme like that in that I won't deprive somebody of life and property for an unjust law. And I love the way they put patriot in quotes. Now listen, I'm not a big Yankee Doodle Dandy, I said that wrong. Yankee Doodle Dandy type person. Like I'm not a mom apple pie, these colors don't run. But still, to just vilify patriots. These people, at least the way they are now, the Southern Poverty Law Center authors, I think they would have been on the side of the crown in the Revolutionary War. Just the way they write. They have like no respect for the tradition of questioning authority and individualism. Okay. All right, so let's put that one away. We're going to do the Libertarian Party stuff last. One last nullification one. Hopefully I have these in order. Nope. Must be this one. Nullification advocates take show on the road. Something in here that is just really, really interesting. Possibly coming to a city near you, a citizen seminar on how to weaken the United in the United States by canceling federal laws that states don't like. That is the essence of federalism. These people do not believe in decentralization. They believe in the Borg. Again, I'm, as I've said multiple times, I don't believe in countries to begin with. They do, but they fundamentally hate the country that we have now. And if I had to choose a country, I don't want to live anywhere else. I don't want to live anywhere else. They fundamentally hate the principles this country was founded on. And I'm not claiming everything this country was founded on was perfect, far from it. And certainly the legacy of slavery is horrible. But the fundamental principles of individualism and natural rights, they hate it. And they classify everyone who loves it and loves their freedom, even if you may end up using your freedom for something I don't like, as long as you're not physically harming somebody, they will classify you as a hater. They are the type of people who will mockingly call freedom, D-U-M. This is clown world. I don't even like that expression that much, but I can't describe it as anything else. It's when up is down and down is up. But I wanted to read that first sentence to you. I'm going to skim this to see. Today's nullifiers seem to decry just about everything the federal government does. Well, so do you guys. When it's not promoting a far left agenda, you seem to decry everything this country was founded on. Let me see if there is anything else in here. Okay, now we're going to go to the Mises stuff. So I wanted to establish some common ground that most libertarians believe in decentralization. Most libertarians believe in nullification, both state nullification and jury nullification. But according to the SPLC, the barking frickin' moonbats that they are, you believe in hate. If you believe... if it wasn't, and by next year it might not be like political suicide to declare, and perhaps I'm just being hopelessly naive, but it just wouldn't shock me to see the SPLC condemn the Declaration of Independence as hate speech. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not everyone can pursue happiness. Blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. I never mind. It wouldn't surprise me if they did it tomorrow. I was going to say, I don't even think they would go that far. I haven't done a search on it. It wouldn't surprise me if there already was an article condemning the Declaration of Independence as hate speech. There isn't enough fireball in the world for this show. And thank you, Mike Seebeck, for the super chat. And he said, we're going to put this up on the screen because comments aren't up and I forgot to stick it up immediately. We should have an LNC meeting in Montgomery just to shove it up their asses. You know what? We've got a plan for our LNC meeting, March, April-ish. I don't know if we've had one in Alabama in a while. And I know the LNC was just giving a lot of support to Alabama for their really crappy ballot access laws. But I'm going to be honest with you, Mike. I'm kind of pushing for Colorado. But I wouldn't mind going to Alabama. All right. You know what? I'm not sure we're going to go over this first article because I did it at the time it came out. We might. But I want to go over the one that came out a couple days ago. Because I want to point and laugh, to be honest with you, at Mr. Creed Newton. Okay, let me see where I put it here. Is this it? No, that's not it. That's the one that came out. Here we go. Libertarian Party loses state parties, plural, donors after hard right turn. Now, we already addressed the donor thing. But has the Libertarian Party lost state parties, plural? No. that headline is a lie. It's a Bill Weld level lie. We could quibble over loses, because I don't think you can lose something that you threw out. Like, if you break up with somebody, I don't really think you lost the relationship. You said, bye, Felicia. But we can quibble over that. One state party is no longer a Libertarian Party affiliate. One. And that is New Mexico. So this headline is a lie. And I know there is a dispute. And I actually even think there can... how do I word this? I believe there are people who are just severely mistaken, but are mistaken in good faith that they think the LPNM legitimately disaffiliated from the National Party. I think they are profoundly mistaken, and a lot of times it comes from parliamentary ignorance. Ignorant is not a bad word. It just means you aren't educated on a certain subject. There's a lot of subjects I am not educated on. I don't know anything about proctology. I am very ignorant on proctology. That is not an insult, and it's not something I am intending upon studying anytime soon. So, there are some good faith people who might think the LPNM legitimately disaffiliated. I think most people who say that are not acting in good faith, however, but I'm not ruling out that there are some good faith people. However, here's the facts. They had zero authority to do what they did. The vast majority of libertarians in New Mexico did not support that decision. We disaffiliated them. Disaffiliating them is not losing them. But let's do a gimme. Let's say we lost them. It's one. Not state parties. So when you start off with a lie in your headline, Creed, though I do think that's a cool name, spelled with an E on the end. I'll give you that. I think your name's pretty badass. That would be like, how recursive would that be? If the SPLC had a hate watch article that put the SPLC on the hate watch, my God, that would be delicious. Now, I'm going to be fair and say later on, they do kind of soften that headline a bit. But that's a real common tactic, isn't that, today in modern journalism? To put this completely inflammatory headline, which is all some people will read, and then you bury the lead, and somebody on Twitter thought they were going to be really clever and like try to school me about... Never mind, we're not even going to get into that. The grammar Nazis, because... I mistype a lot on Twitter, and I said buy the lead instead of bury the lead, and then they're like, it's not lead, L-E-A-D, it's L-E-D-E. I know that, but I also know that both have become correct, and obviously I forgot to put the R. I was typing fast. I was typing on my phone. It was Twitter. Go away. But anyway, and then they bury the lead. They put this completely inflammatory headline, and hard right turn. Really? What's the hard right turn? The fact that we agree with the right on some issues and with the left on some issues? Like, hard right means nothing anymore. And man, what a hard right article was posted by Newsweek today that was authored by Angela McArdle, where she said that the Florida jury got it right and not imposing the death penalty on the Parkland school shooter. I know being anti-death penalty is so hard right, just like pot. I mean, if there's one thing the hard right is known for, is being against the death penalty and smoking a lot of pot. And having pink hair now, apparently, too. I mean, apparently I am now a poster child for the hard right. I mean, you know. Huh. Clown world. Is there any? There's a tiny bit left in here. I brought more because I knew this would be one of those kinds of shows. Okay, so the headline itself is a lie, Creed. So it says, the Libertarian Party LP, faces the departure of two state-level parties. Where? No, wait. A, I am going to nitpick this to death because A, it's not that long. And like nearly every sentence is wrong. Okay, we don't face, like, faces the departure, like, now maybe I'm nitpicking, is like it's something that's in progress. No, New Mexico is gone. It's done faced. It's gone. We're forming a new affiliate. We, meaning the members, not the LNC. We would have to approve it, but there's already a call to convention to form a new. Two, what's the other one? Are you trying to falsely claim that Virginia departed? Even if you departed, seems to be, to me, to be different than dissolving. Like, say you had a partner who decided to unalive themselves. Did they depart from the relationship? I mean, I guess technically they did, but they also, like, just departed from life itself. Like, departure seems to think they went and did something else. And even if you're taking the lie of Virginia, they didn't depart. But anyway, so no, we disaffiliated one party. Virginia is perfectly intact. As membership dues drop, I already gave you the facts on that. And some donors flee the party. Do you want to know something? I've been on the LNC since 2016. Every month, donors flee the party, and new ones come. That's just the way political parties work. Do you want to know when we lost a lot of donors over something that was just an honest mistake? Do you remember Satangate? Did we all of us? Yeah. Anyway, that's just politics. People come, people go. But you notice the weasel words he used here? As some donors flee. Yeah, and some donors flocked. That's just reality. Over questions about economic stewardship. Do you mean the economic stewardship of actually having a reserve and pulling the party out of insolvency? You filthy liar. And the party's turned to far-right messaging. Where? Datmo, Wikipedia is just awful. But it shouldn't, this article should have nothing to do with Massachusetts. The recognized Massachusetts party isn't in question. They didn't even say 3 state. Well, we'll get into it. And Tartan just spends way too much time on Wikipedia, just feeling very, very self-important. That's why I tell everyone, do your LP stuff on LPedia. Our page rank is great. Let's make Wikipedia irrelevant when it comes to Libertarian Party stuff. Their article on the Dallas Accord is shit, too. Okay. And, by the way, Tartan will report that I said this, because Tartan follows my tweets and reports me to Wikipedia administrators like a little bitch. Okay. The departures came... Okay, never mind. After the Mises Caucus, a group that espouses far-right rhetoric. Really? Okay. Are there some people in the Mises Caucus who may say some far-right things, if we can even define what far-right is? Probably. There were people in the Radical Caucus that were advocating initiatory violence, like said the only thing wrong with the Oklahoma City bombing was that there was a daycare center in there, but everything else about it was okay. Is that then reflective of the entire Radical Caucus? No. There are wingnuts in every single group. But let's use a different example. What do I have here? I have that tweet from NBC News. It's since been deleted, but since we're imputing comments of one person or a couple people to an entire group, I think we can confidently say now that the NBC News is a bunch of xenophobic bigots, because look what they had quoted somebody saying that when DeSantis sent asylum seekers to Martha's Vineyard, it was like me taking my trash out and just driving to different areas where I live and just throwing my trash there. Really? So immigrants are like trash that you leave? Proof. NBC is a far-right xenophobe. No, they aren't, are they? I mean, I have a lot of criticisms of NBC News, but I don't think as a whole NBC News thinks that other human beings are like trash that you leave at the side of a road. Okay. So, no, it doesn't expose. But remember, to the Southern Poverty Law Center, unless you are far left, you're far right. I mean, that's just the way it is. 1, near total control of the party at the LP National Convention in Reno. Okay, that one part is true. We did win near total control of the party. Since then, the party has tweeted messaging that aligns with the hard right. Well, they don't define it. And we've tweeted out things that align with what some people would call the far left. We've tweeted out things that align with a lot of other people. Because the fact is, there is no group on the planet that is entirely wrong about everything. And we tend to say things that can marginally appeal on one point to almost any group, but they wouldn't agree with our total ideology. We've probably tweeted things that the SPLC would agree with. Does that make us then in line with the SPLC? Said including anti-LGBT and pro-secession posts. We seceded from Britain. I hate to tell you that. It is amazing to me the utter irrational and repugnant hatred the Southern Poverty Law Center has for even the very idea that people have the right to be free. This is low-key basically saying the Declaration of Independence is a hate document, because the Declaration of Independence is a secession document. Oh, Datmel wants to know what Satan Gate is. Okay, this is a funny story. On Facebook, the way our social media team used to work is we would schedule certain time slots out way ahead of time, meaning that some posts were scheduled a month ahead of time. Things that were just general libertarian principles. And we were doing this like religious tolerance thing where we were posting quotes from every religion we could find to show that there could be portions of nearly every religion of a statement we could agree with. There was something going on at the time about religious tolerance. This was years ago. So these things were scheduled out a month ahead of time. In Facebook's scheduler, I don't know if it's this way now, it didn't show you holidays. So you could schedule something out for a holiday and not even realize you were scheduling out for a holiday. And our social media team were not Christians. They didn't have in their head when Good Friday was, when Easter was. I think you can see where we're going now. So there was a post scheduled way ahead of time. That was a quote from the Church of Satan. It was actually a very good quote, something we could agree with the Church of Satan. We had previously posted things from the Bible, from the Quran, from the Bhagavad Gita. Like literally, we scoured the planet for religion. I forgot. It was something that like was almost a restatement of the non-aggression principle. But the volunteer pre-scheduled it for Good Friday. It's not a good idea to put a Church of Satan quote on Good Friday. I think we could all agree on that. The volunteer did not do it on purpose. The volunteer, who I will not name because I'm not going to throw a volunteer under the bus, was not a Christian. Would, even if, you wouldn't, the way the Facebook scheduler is, even a Christian probably wouldn't have noticed that was Good Friday. But certainly an atheist is not having Christian holidays on their mind. And people lost their shit. Chris Thrasher lost his ever-loving mind over it. So Chris Thrasher losing his mind over the Mises Caucus takeover. I'm like, I've seen this rodeo before, Chris. You tend to overreact. And people were just calling for that volunteer's blood and acting like it was done on purpose. It was not done on purpose. And I wasn't going to throw a volunteer under the bus. But yeah, obviously, it was, in hindsight, a terrible mistake. You don't post a Church of Satan quote on Good Friday. Now, some people said we shouldn't have posted a Church of Satan quote to begin with. In isolation, I would agree with that too. But in the context of trying to find something in common with every religion on the planet, I didn't have a problem with it. And believe it or not, we do have Satanists in this party because we don't have religious tests. In fact, most of you, I'm not going to name names because I'm not here to be talking about other people's religions, but there's someone that most of us probably know, and you might not know this person is a Satanist, a peaceful Satanist. I don't know what version of Satanism they subscribe to, because there's a religious version, and then there's ones that are just basically atheists who kind of do it for the shock value. Whatever. So that is what Satan Gate was over. And boy, libertarians just like to lose their shit. But I can tell you why we stopped scheduling posts ahead of time, besides Satan Gate, is sometimes we would schedule some gun rights posts, and then a mass shooting would happen, which we obviously wouldn't know was going to happen when we scheduled a post a month or several weeks ahead of time. And we've had very strong gun rights posts like that appeared within minutes of a mass shooting. We can believe in gun rights all we want. You still don't do that. That's not a good look. Imagine if that happened with today's LP. People would be losing their minds. This happened quite frequently. Okay? There's been social media mess ups. It happens. Okay, including anti-LGBT. Not sure what they're referring to. I can tell you personally, I haven't liked some of the more culture war-y type stuff. And of course, our critics won't acknowledge that since one that I really didn't like that talked about prosecuting teachers, I don't think we've really even dealt with those topics anymore. We did go a little heavy on that. But that's not anti-LGBT. I've mentioned it multiple times before. I don't lead with that with my identity, but I'm a member. Okay? I'm a member of the GSM community. So are many other people who are in the Mises Caucus, and people on the LNC, and people who are our volunteers. You know, I hate to tell you this because actually I think this is extremely homophobic to think that all people who may have alternative sexualities all have to think exactly the same way. There have been posts that have protested or questioned whether or not minors can consent to things that will, harm. I don't even want to say harm, because if they end up not regretting it, then they might think it's a worthwhile choice. But some minors do end up regretting it. And it is not anti-LGBT to question, to merely ask the question. I think Bill Maher had it exactly right. What kind of society does not allow questioning as to whether it's okay to sterilize children or minors? I don't like saying children because I reserve the term children for like prepubescent kids. Though some of this crap is going on with super young children, but teenagers, with minors. We should have a right to ask this. We should have a right to ask whether force-funded schools should be teaching values that are opposite to what the parents would teach, or to be keeping secrets from parents. That is not anti-LGBT. It's pro-family. And you are a twisted person. If anything that's pro-family, you automatically think is anti-LGBT. It's anti-LGBT to think that people who happen to have an alternative sexuality or identity cannot handle these questions. What kind of patronizing is that? We need to be able to have these conversations. That is not hate. But they didn't give any examples. This was just some broad brush stroke. But you are a cold-hearted person if you haven't seen some of these detransition stories and step back and go, wait, maybe there needs to be a little bit more examination here. And I am not anti-trans. I don't deny the existence of trans people. I do not deny the right of adults to do what they want with their bodies. I do question whether minors can make these decisions. Now, I'm not the type of person who wants the state involved. I am not the type of person who wants legislation. I think this is a family decision. I think this is a parental rights decision. But as a culture, we should be able to ask these questions. That's not anti-LGBT. We were the first political party, and we still consistently hold this position, and did it when it was not politically popular, to say that if that people should be able to form any kind of families that they want. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of you may not know this, and some of you might not like this. There is a line in our platform that says, as long as the government continues its illegitimate practice of licensing marriage, it must offer those licenses to all. And then there's wording in there that also says, regardless of number of participants. Meaning, our platform not only is anti-LGBT, we're pro any kind of family arrangement you want. Including if you want to have 10 husbands, 10 wives, a mixture. We don't care. Do you want to know who authored that plank? Oh, the pink-haired, hard-right Nazi authored it. Yeah, I authored that sentence. I'm the one who insisted that our platform says, regardless of number of participants. And says that as long as the government's going to issue licenses, it damn well ought to issue them to everybody, including people that want to marry themselves, to be honest with you. Because if there's going to be any kind of tax benefits to marriage, even single people should get it, because the government should not be picking winners and losers. Oh, what a fucking hard right statement that is. As I've said before, I want to see Heinleinian line marriages. Pro-secession, guilty as charged, absolutely in favor of the right of peaceful people to secede down to the individual. It says prominent Mises Caucus members. So now you're just dealing with individual people and imputing them to the group, because these are collectivists. The SPLC is a bunch of collectivists. And state parties. We'll get back to the state party thing, because there's something really interesting here. Have posted in favor of repealing the Civil Rights Act. I hate to tell you this, honey bun, but the Libertarian Party has been in favor of repealing the Civil Rights Act since the day it was formed. And you're trying to make this like this is some new thing. I want to pull something up here. Give me a moment. This isn't a new thing. In fact, our platform used to be much more explicit on it. Yes, we believe that the Civil Rights Act should be repealed. when it comes to private individuals. I'm going to make a nuance here. The government should never be able to discriminate against anybody. If the government is going to offer something, it has to offer it to everybody. But private individuals have rights, and those rights include the rights to be discriminatory, and then you have the right to not want to have anything to do with them. But acting like this is some new thing, that we want it to repeal the Civil Rights Act, that's been a part of our platform forever. Okay, 1 second here. Something I want to pull up. Okay, it's not on this one graphic, but I want to show you something because they're acting like we're so extreme today. But we're going to pull up some historical stuff here because why not? Let's get some history. Let's go back to here for a moment. I need to pull the widget down. I want to show you this Libertarian Party Flyer from 1980. 1980 Libertarian Party Policy Platform to be abolished. Department of Energy, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Food and Drug Administration, the OSHA, the FCC, the FTC. Do we even have that? Yeah, we still have the National Labor Relations Board, the FBI, the CIA, the Federal Reserve, Social Security, welfare, public schools, and taxation. Oh, we're just so freaking extreme today, aren't we? I wish we were going back to saying these statements boldly like we used to. When people want to know, oh, what is bold messaging? This is what's bold messaging. This is what I mean by bold messaging. Okay. But I want to pull up some older platforms here a second. So you're going to have to give me a moment because I forgot he even mentioned the Civil Rights Act in here, acting like this is something new. And the guy who wrote the Daily Beast one says he wrote a book about the Libertarian Party and then acts like this hasn't been our position forever. National platform, but we're not doing the Daily Beast today. National platform. We're just going to pull one up at random. Let's just pull up the 1980 one since that is something we were looking at. Okay. There's a certain phrase I'm looking for, and it might be in an earlier platform. So you got to bear with me. Well, you don't have to, but I'm asking you to bear with me. Includes the right. Okay, here we go. Let's pull this up. We didn't use specifically the word Civil Rights Act. We said it in another way. But let me show you. And to make it clear, we were talking about private actors and not state actors. So right here, under discrimination. Discrimination imposed by the government has brought disruption in normal relationships of peoples, set neighbor against neighbor, created gross injustices, and diminished human potential. Anti-discrimination efforts enforced by the government is the reverse side of the coin and will, for the same reasons, create the same problems. Consequently, we oppose any governmental attempts to regulate private discrimination, including discrimination in employment, housing. I'm trying to get past because my little Twitter things there are so where were we at? Employment, housing, and privately owned so-called public accommodations. The right to trade includes the right not to trade for any reason whatsoever. So we were calling for that's just in other words, calling for the repeal of the Civil Rights Act when it comes to private discrimination. I want to see how far back this goes back. So that was 1980. Let's look at the 1976 platform, because I think that same language was in there. Yep, the right to trade includes the right not to trade. So, and it's funny, this is when condemning bigotry as irrational and repugnant first came into the platform, and then it got deleted. I think it was in 1980. We looked at this before. It's not been in the platform for longer than it has been in the platform. But we've always held that position. That's nothing new. And he's acting like it's something new to shock people because it's against natural rights. The Civil Rights Act makes slaves of people. It's saying you have to use your body and your resources to do things you don't want to do. And the rest of us can think you're an asshole if we want to. Okay, it says the 19th Amendment, which enfranchised women. They're speaking of a tweet by Joshua Smith. I've stayed completely out of that debate. I've heard there was a greater context to it. I don't really care. If someone boxes you into a corner, that whatever. Joshua can speak for himself. He's a good friend of mine. I don't agree with all his tweets. He doesn't always speak for me. Like, I even said to him when he was like rejoicing over the deletion of the abortion plank and said, "Hoes be mad." I go, I guess I'm one of the hoes that be mad. Like, so somebody tweeted something you didn't like, and you're going to smear a whole group over that. Okay. From what I understand, though I don't speak for him, his statement was basically that no one should be able to vote. And somebody asked, does that include women? Well, you know, me, if I got put into that corner, I would have said, are you suggesting women aren't people? But whatever. I wouldn't have gotten boxed into that corner. And if anyone ever, but there are people, I've seen plenty of people, forget about the tweet from Joshua. Joshua's his own man. He is not a misogynist, and he is not a bigot. You know, he can be a bit of a shit poster, as so can all of us, and it was on his private account. But I have seen actual people who have said, you know, that giving women the right to vote was a horrible mistake, and they're assholes for saying that. You know, we all have some asshole opinions. That is not a Mises Caucus position. Okay, it says, and more. I love that. And more. Reminds me of a ShamWow ad. What do you get if you order it now? You get it sooner than if you order it later. And more. Like that and more is carrying an awful lot of baggage, but okay. Hate Watch. That still is a fantastic name for a heavy metal band. Obtained a copy of the Mises Caucus Reno Strategic Action Plan. I love the way they make it seem so sinister. I hate to tell you, but, you know, back when the Radical Caucus was really active at the 2016 convention, we had an action plan, too. You know that's what caucuses do, right, Creed? Or do you have no idea how caucuses and political parties work? I don't know. I'm just asking because you're, like, making this sound so sinister when this is something that any halfway decent organized caucus would do. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other minor caucuses in Reno had a strategic action plan as well, which details a plan to win control of the Libertarian National Committee. Yeah, that's what caucuses generally want. And change planks of the Libertarian platform to align with their views. You know, that's what everybody does. Pretty much every convention. That's why we vote on the platform. Do you think people go, there's a platform amendment up for debate and vote. I am purposely going to vote to make it not align with my views. Were you just like getting paid by the word? So you just had to say a bunch of stupid stuff? Okay, dissolving party. Okay, now they're going to get into Virginia, I guess. The Virginia Libertarian Party dissolved itself after a vote on September 12th. Okay, first of all, Creed, the vote was on September 11th. I know I'm being picky, but you're allegedly a reporter. And September 11th kind of is an important day in American history. It's whatever. Maybe you're trying to say that that's when the No, it says after a vote. I'm trying to give you credit, and I can't even because the vote was on September 11th. But no, it did not dissolve itself. You are just utterly ignorant. The board did not have the right to do that. And I'm finding it so funny that you seem to be so easily swallowing the power of oligarchs to decide over the will of the people what to do. I don't think you liked that, like what, say, the recent Supreme Court decision. I'm sure you had a lot of oligarch-type language against that decision. But you're fine with it in circumstances like this. But no, they did not dissolve. Over recent, whatever, we've went through their statement. Blah, 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 Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, here's what's funny. Recent statements, and then it goes on, it says, repeal of the Civil Rights Act and other statements that are antithetical to our core principles. Holly, did you not know that the Libertarian Party's position has always been repeal of the Civil Rights Act? I didn't even notice this before when I was reading your resolution. But did you not even know what the party you were allegedly a member of believes? Like, it's just a fact. I read from the platform. Our current platform also talks about the language isn't as strong as I'd like. I wish it still said the sentence, the right to trade includes the right not to trade for any reason. But even our current platform says that private entities have the right to set whatever standards of association that they wish. Did you not realize that our position has always been that? So your statement is false. It shows you just didn't even understand what our positions were. And recent statement, nobody in the National Libertarian Party endorsed taking the vote away from women, because you're saying a person who's on the LNC on their private account, you're saying that's endorsed. Do you think that me, when I say things like, go F yourself with a barbed, what, that's endorsed by the National Libertarian Party? Or when I say birds aren't real or anything else? My God. Okay. I'm really just gobsmacked by the fact she didn't know that our position has always been to repeal the Civil Rights Act. It says the National LP disputes the dissolution and continues to recognize a Virginia state affiliate of those who voted against the measure. No, that's wrong. Like, it's right and wrong. You know how something like has a kernel of truth? Yes, we don't dispute the dissolution. We declared it absolutely invalid. And since we're the ones who recognize affiliates, like, we kind of have the final say in this, not you. But we don't continue to recognize a state affiliate of those who voted against the measure. You do realize it was just a small board that voted, right? The way this is worded makes it sound like we are recognizing an affiliate of how many people voted against it. 4? Of 4 people. Those 4 people are our Virginia affiliate. No. The hundreds of people who are part of the affiliate that had rights under their affiliate constitution are our affiliate. Like, this is just like so sloppy. Is there no editor? Then it says the New Mexico affiliate, the term used for libertarian state parties. It's interesting that he explains the definition of the word affiliate. But earlier when he talks about tweets he didn't like from affiliate parties, didn't explain that the National Party has no control over what state affiliate parties tweet out, because he was referring to some tweets from New Hampshire he didn't like, and we have absolutely nowhere in here did he mention that, and nowhere in here did he mention that before Holly Ward and her merry band of attempted her merry band of oligarchs, let's just put it that way, were tweeting out extremely offensive things about other libertarians. That never gets mentioned. Not tweeting. It was more on their Facebook page, but you know what I mean, social media. It says the New Mexico affiliate disaffiliated from the National Party. Of course, we dispute that. Over state-level changes. No, over violating your member rights. It's funny how that never comes in here. These people that allegedly are so about the rights of the voice of the people. Okay. The LP refused to acknowledge the split because it was illegal, and we voted to disaffiliate ourselves. That is true. But it's funny, he goes, but then voted to disaffiliate, because there was no working with that leadership, and we couldn't just simply depose them. And then it says Massachusetts also has 2 libertarian parties, though the LP recognizes only one. Right, we have one Massachusetts affiliate. The split occurred in February after the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts accused the Mises Caucus of using race. No, that isn't how the split occurred. The split occurred after they expelled 47 people merely for signing a petition. Did you not do any research. And it's funny, if I remember correctly, there's a link there, and I believe it links, where it says the split occurred, it links to the statement from the group that isn't our affiliate. Why would you take that statement as the accurate accounting of what happened in a party when that group isn't part of the party? And it wasn't a split. The Massachusetts party that exists now is the same it's a continuous line of secession. There wasn't a split. They may have split off, but that's on them. Okay. And then he goes on about Tyler Hobbs hacking our account, but doesn't really talk about how the people who, because Tyler Hobbs was a fellow victim of this, how multiple accounts were hacked. But what's interesting here is the LNC had gotten all this criticism. You must not have reported it. You must not know what you're doing, because Twitter, if you did know what you were doing, would have restored your account immediately. That goes to show that you just really do not understand how Twitter works. But it's funny because Tyler even said Twitter was quite slow to act on those reports. Yes, they were. But it was also over the weekend. But still, no, we did everything we were supposed to. I'm not going to get into the Twitter thing very much. McArdle said the alleged disaffiliation, and nobody proofread this. Check out this. McArdle said the alleged disaffiliation and resolution of the Libertarian Party of Virginia. I think he meant dissolution. Did you not proofread this, Creed? This is so incredibly sloppy. Okay. She said there's a small resentful faction of libertarians who disagree with the party's direction. That is correct. Holly Ward, the former chair of the Virginia affiliate, well, that part is correct, told Hate Watch she knew that Mises Caucus would not be an effective steward of the LP. Okay, this is a chair that disappeared for a month. The rest of the board couldn't reach her. She did nothing. But it's the Mises Caucus who's not an effective steward. Got it, Holly. You showed up to a regional organizing convention. Okay, listen, I like my alcohol as much as the next person. But when I need to, I don't know, organize my region, I don't stumble in stinking drunk. So really, excuse me if I really don't take your opinion here too seriously, but the fact that you go running to the SPLC, may you never darken the door of the LP again. She decried the party's messaging that aligns with what she called the alt-right. Define that. Is part of that repealing the Civil Rights Act? Because that's the party you joined, sweetheart. And then it goes into the financial thing, which we already dealt with. Okay, now here's someone who super disappoints me, because he was a friend of mine, Brett Bittner. Now, I'm beginning to doubt my own memory, because I went and tried to find articles about this or an old email about this, so I must be misremembering something, but I could have sworn that I had gotten an email from the Advocates for Self-Government, which is the group that puts out the world's smallest political quiz, or political quiz. Yeah, that's correct. Brett Bittner used to be the executive director of them, that they got removed from the Amazon Smile program because the SPLC wrote something against them, which again would be a feature, not a bug. But I can't find any proof of this anywhere on the internet. If anyone else remembers that, and you have an email, send it to me, because right now I'm going to say I imagined that, because I can't find any proof of it. So whatever I might have said on that, I remember it. Like, if I were to, like, I could swear on a Bible to that I remember that, but I can't find any proof of it. So it must have been a weird dream. But this surprises me of Brett Bittner. Brett, the whole time I've known him, been a good guy. I can't believe that you would rat people out to the SPLC, particularly when you agree with things like jury nullification. And I can bet, I could just guess what the SPLC would say about the advocates for self-government, because we already know. Forget about the whole whether or not I imagine that Amazon smile thing. We could predict what the SPLC would say about the advocates for self-government. Are you turning on them too, Brett? You ought to be super, super ashamed of yourself. It's backstabbing your party and your friends this way. Okay. And then it goes on about some kind of reporting anomaly to the FEC. Reporting to the FEC, like, what a headache to begin with. That's a Mises Caucus thing. That's their business. Has nothing to do with the LNC. She said, Ward, that LP's messaging, you mean the real crappy messaging that was coming out of the Libertarian Party of Virginia, attacking people? No wonder people didn't want to show up to your meetings, Holly. When you call people racists and bigots and you just have these completely salty, nasty Facebook messages, you might think people don't want to show up to your meetings. I know people are weird like that. Said was discouraging enthusiasm. And perhaps a chair who doesn't show up for a month, like doesn't answer emails, doesn't post anything on the SEC email list, that could be a bit discouraging too, Holly. Memberships were absolutely lapsing. Do you mean those 50 national memberships that you just wouldn't send in to national? Is that what you mean? There were no volunteers to do any work. Nobody wanted to, really. Because it seems to me about 100 people just signed a petition and are paying out of their own pocket to have a special convention to replace your ass and are putting it together. It seems to me there's an awful lot of people who want to do work now that you're not there. That seems to me that was a you problem, not a Mises Caucus problem. Okay. And then it goes on about the planks that changed at convention. It says the previous libertarian abortion plank was explicitly pro-choice. That is arguable. I don't think the term pro-choice or pro-life even makes sense in a libertarian context. It certainly believed the government should stay out of it. And if you think that's pro-choice, okay. But I think pro-choice entails more than that. I think pro-choice entails believing that there's a moral right to have an abortion. And our platform never said anything about that. In fact, it granted equal moral ground to both sides of the argument and said, however, the government should stay out of it. I don't consider that to be a pro-choice plank. I consider it to be an uneasy truce. And I wasn't in favor of deleting the abortion plank. So I'm not really going to get into that. The Mises Caucus wanted to delete it. They got it deleted. I didn't agree with that. It says, Ward explained that libertarians are split evenly. That goes to show you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because that's not true. Actually, she said evenly between pro and anti-abortion positions. That terminology sucks, but that's not true. We're about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. About 1/3 of the party is hardcore, abortion should be illegal. Another third of the party is hardcore, up until the umbilical cord, you should be able to, get rid of the fetus, baby, whatever terminology you want to use. And the other third is pretty much okay with abortions up to a point. That's actually a more nuanced statement, but not that Ms. Ward has been known for nuance. And then it says, the document also suggests support for secession and the rewording of the self-determination plank. It says, okay. It says pro-secession language passed at the convention, but it does not appear in the platform on the LP website. Now, when I read that, I was like, what? Did I screw up the platform when I did the amendments? So let's just go show how sloppy, once again, that creed is. Is it true that the pro-secession language does not appear on the website? Okay, let's go see. You already know I know the answer to this, but I want to show you. Because for a second there, I thought I didn't do the amendments properly. Okay, we're going to go to my screen here. We're on the LP site. We're going to go to platform. And let's just do a search, why don't we, for secession. Wow, check this out. It's even in the Planky said it would be under self-determination. It says, we recognize the right to political self-determination, including secession. Okay. Wait. What? Didn't he say? And let's go to that page so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the paragraph, I think it's the 6th paragraph down. Actually, the one before it. No, it's in the one I said. The sentence that starts with pro-secession language, it says it does not appear on the platform on the LP website. Did you look? Did you even do something as basic as a word search for the word secession? Because it does appear. And we're supposed to trust this article. You've gotten so many just like basic fact-checking things. This is the worst part. McCardle affirmed, yes, we're pro-secession. We've always been that. The plan also includes a draft plank to support agorism. Just goes to show he also doesn't. He makes it sound like this was a Mises plan. When it says a draft plank to support agorism, what the strategic action plan was doing is it looked at the platform committee report. The platform committee was not dominated by Mises caucus members. It was something completely separate. I chaired that committee. What the strategic action plan said is, oh, look, the platform committee recommended an agorism plank. We think we should vote yes on this. But he shows no understanding of this here. Okay, and he goes on to describe agorism as if it's supposed to be bad, and I'm reading it going, this sounds pretty good. All right, and it says such language does not appear on the LP platform because we didn't get to vote on it. But of course, you don't mention that anywhere because you didn't do the most basic of research. And then irrational and repugnant, which is on the next page, which is what the SPLC is. And it's funny, he goes on to quote what we did put in the platform, which is stronger language than was there before. We uphold and defend the rights of every person, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or any other aspect of their identity. You know, he got us there. Alt-right, hard-right people say that all the time. If I had $1 for every time I've heard an alt-right person say, we uphold and defend the rights of every person regardless of their race, ethnicity, or any other aspect of their identity, if I had $1 for every time I heard an alt-right person say that, I would have like $1 billion by now. Because that is just so alt-right. That is so alt-righty, alt-rightishness that it can't even be more alt-right. Creed, you are a barking fucking moonbat and a liar. Okay. And Bittner said, I've not seen this broader liberty movement. Well, that's your fault, Bittner, if you don't realize that the broader liberty movement thinks the LP is a joke. Most libertarians are not in the Libertarian Party, and we should be embarrassed by that. And that's what happened in the past. Whether we succeed at bringing them in remains to be seen, but it doesn't remain to be seen what the past brought. Okay, there's something else I wanted to point out here, and it might be in the other article. I'm skimming here a second. I think it must have been in the other article. I'm just skimming here for 1 second. Okay, Yeah, here's something that also is super sloppy, and I have no idea what he's trying to say. And it was in the paragraph we were just talking about. Pro-secession language passed at the convention. It does not appear in the platform on the LP website. Yes, it does. But the Mises-controlled Libertarian National Convention shared their new platform as a document on the LP public mailing list. What does that mean? Did you mean to say Mises-controlled Libertarian National Committee? Or did you think LNC stood for Libertarian National Convention, despite the fact that DNC means Democratic National Committee and RNC means Republican National Committee? So LNC logically would mean Libertarian National Committee, but you said Libertarian National Convention. Now, I think you understood. I do think you understand that LNC is committee. I just don't think you proofread your article, which means you're sloppy. This should never have seen the light of day, and the editor didn't go through this. There is just basic dumb errors in here. That's what I was looking for, because that was one of the things that first jumped out at me. 1 second here. It's funny. I don't think they linked to the Reno Strategic Action Plan, which is interesting. So, that dealt with that article. It's written poorly. It's poorly reasoned. It gives zero facts. And the two things that it tries to cite as support, one was a personal post by Joshua Smith that he can speak for himself. I'm not his mother, but it was not an official statement of the party. And one was he didn't say this, but he certainly insinuated, and Holly Ward definitely said this, some recent support for repeal of the Civil Rights Act, which has been something that's been a position of the party since 1972. So, boy, that's about all I can take of that. So hopefully I've dismantled that, given you a little bit of just the type of rhetoric and tactics that groups like the SPLC use. And what I want to close it up with is this is basically Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. And it's not something I agreed with. I don't think it's an ethical way to, win a battle of ideas. But what do? This is the conundrum for people of principle. How do you combat people who will not play by any kind of rules? Well, I know it's called rules for radicals, but it's basically no rules. How do you deal? How can you have an ethical, legitimate battle for ideas when your opponents are just absolutely ethically bankrupt? That's a challenge. That is really a challenge, because you cannot become what you hate. But these types of things, they don't care about the truth. And our principled people, and I'm throwing this out as a rhetorical question I'm deeply disturbed by, are principled people sowing the seeds of their own destruction by saying, well, I won't stoop to that level, but these people are not hesitating to stoop to that level. Are we powerless in the face of just no holds barred, no regard for the truth? There's not an easy answer to this, and I do think it's something we definitely need to struggle with. But make no mistake about it, this is just tactics. It's tactics to demonize and divide. And I think people that do this are, as I said, to tie it up in a neat bow, and the graphic to this, are absolutely irrational and thoroughly repugnant. And it doesn't just exist on the left, even though that's what we were dealing with now. But this is a group that should no longer exist. If you want to talk about a hate group, a group that is dividing us, a group that really ultimately does not care about human dignity and human flourishing and human rights, it is the SPLC. They're the poster child for it. So that's all I have for you for today. I was going to do an LNC update today, but I thought this was more important. I might do an LNC update tomorrow. My campaign is going very well. By the way, good news. I was saying earlier today, it costs about $600 to mail out around 1,000 postcards. And I've been doing them in batches as I've been raising money. I raised another $600 for my campaign today and immediately sent out the order for another 1,000 postcards. I'm talking about my town council race. So my wish list was that I'd be able to mail to, every voter in my district. But I'm not the type of person who says, if I can't do everything, I'm going to do nothing. I'm always the glasses half full type person. If I mail out one postcard, well, that's one more than zero, isn't it? So I was able to mail out 2,000 postcards out of 9,500 voters. Not as well as I would have liked, but it's certainly better than zero, isn't it? And I've been targeting unaffiliated because I think that is where the biggest opportunity comes. There is still time. If I raise more money for postcards, I will send out more. Who would have known I would have raised another 600 in a day? So I will continue to do that. If you're interested in supporting definitely a winnable town council race for a principled libertarian that has lived her principles and paid the price for it, and I would do that on town council as well. Local is where it's at. I ask you to support my race. It's Karen, Caryn, for Castle Rock. Now, if I don't raise enough to send out another batch of postcards, I can at least do some text banking. Every single cent will get spent in getting votes, trying to get a libertarian onto the town council. Okay, and mutual 7 freedom. I get it. I don't. He was apologizing for not being able to donate. It's a rough financial time. I totally get it. I am so grateful for the people who can that do, but no shade on the people who wish they could but can't. That's just life right now. All right, y'all, I'm starting to lose my voice. I got kind of passionate in this show. Nothing Fireball won't cure. No, I can't believe I didn't drink all 3 of them. I drank this little one and only a tiny bit of this one. But I've got Wayne and I are hitting the streets tomorrow to do more door lit drops. So that's what I've been so busy doing. We're going door to door. It's great exercise and dropping off my literature. We're trying to cover my entire district. So that's what I'm going to be doing all weekend. That's why I can't promise that I'll be doing an LNC update, but I certainly will try, because tomorrow night we have some friends that are moving out of town, so we're going out to dinner with them. And Sunday night, I believe there's an LNC budget discussion. So I'm not so sure if I'm going to be able to stream this weekend, but I'll certainly try. But no, I'll be campaigning my ass off. Okay. I hope you all have an awesome night, and I thank you for your attention tonight. And if you found the show useful, I think this is one of the more important shows I did. Please spread it around. Please give me a subscribe and a like. And I love you. Have an awesome night.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's